All right, everybody. Well, you are in for a treat. Our next featured speaker, panelist, podcaster, just resident badass who loves working with so many people out there is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, the founder of Outlier HQ, the man in charge of the Outlier Podcast Festival, bringing podcasting and featuring those outliers out there across the world and here in the United States is our buddy Ever Gonzales joining us this morning. So what is going on, my friend? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. As always, I'm always honored to be on, man.
You're jumping around a little bit today, I think. I saw you're on a couple other, you're on the official International Podcast Day. The guy that started it all 7 years ago, Mr. Allen, who's done an amazing job. But
last night we hopped on the kickoff international show. And so we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we had a good time with him.
Good stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing is there's so many different niches popping up, different festivals, one day things. I know that Chris Cremosis, our buddy over there at Podfest, is doing his master thing around this as well to help out with other things. So many people, it's really gaining a lot of traction and moving forward. But let's talk about you, man. Let's talk about Outlier for those that are listening or watching this either live here internationally or watching the replay. Tell us about Ever and Outlier.
Yeah, so we started Outlier HQ 2013. It started with a podcast, right? We just hopped on and we were talking to cool people all over the world, a lot of entrepreneurs, authors, just people doing something different in the world. And 435 plus episodes later, along the way, we were like, this is actually something special that it's not just a podcast. It feels like a community. And so we started in Utah. We had a co-working space there for a little while. But then because of the co-working space and the community that we were building, we're like, let's do events. Granted, this is not my background. I had no idea how to put on events. I had no idea how to do a podcast, run a co-working space, but we're like, let's figure it out. And so we figured it out and it was fun. We had a great time doing it, met a lot of great people. Fast forward many years later, 2 months ago, moved out here to Austin, Texas to be closer to family, the good stuff. And then we're continuing to do our podcast festivals. We have 3 podcast festivals a year. Pre-pandemic, we were going to different cities every festival. So Austin, Denver, LA a couple times, Columbus, Ohio, that kind of stuff. Just really wherever there was a cool podcasting community. After pandemic, we switched over and did 2 virtual events, one in May, one in September. You've been a part of both of them, a huge part of them. So thanks for that. And so, yeah, we're just trying to do this and we're trying to adapt with the 2020 and what the world has to offer. And so far, so good. I mean, we miss the in-person vibe, the magic that happens when we're together in person, but it's been a pretty decent transition, switching over to virtual events. When we do in-person ones, we do intimate shows. So 200 attendees max, right? And we want more intimate setting for our speakers, our audience, our sponsors. But now that it's virtual, it kind of goes out the window. And so we've opened it up to a lot more attendees, and we've had attendees from all over the world, which has been a nice surprise and something that we're going to continue to try to, encourage for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing is with everything, we thank Uncle Corona, Uncle COVID, for having to make us learn how to pivot and move everything online if you weren't already online. And that's one of the nice things is while we can't oftentimes meet in person, with people, our friends all across the world, we can't high five, hug, whatever, fist bump. This is one of the best ways to do it, still get the word out and what you're doing. And it becomes almost like, that's what I'm saying, this day in, day out, or week in, week out of recording your podcast episode kind of becomes that same kind of connection to the outside world, right, Ever?
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that one of the positives, right? One of the few positives of Corona, right? It's kind of opened up our world a little bit, and I think people are a little bit more forgiving about audio quality because now a lot of these podcasters aren't in their studios, aren't doing it professionally like they used to. Now a lot of them are in their bedrooms and basements and closets, and indie podcasters, we've been doing that since forever. So it just kind of levels the playing field a little bit. But a lot of these podcasters are putting out great content, and we're seeing a lot more podcast festivals and podcast events and conferences, and we're all for it, right? I think opening up to different communities, different niches. I think overall, the podcasting industry in general is going to benefit from that, right? Some of them are going to fall off. Some of them are going to become a staple in the industry. But that's the way we grow. That's the way we continue to find different podcasters out there doing amazing things.
Yeah, that's a big thing is you've always got to be able to pivot in some sort of fashion, whether it's what your content is or how you produce the show, how you interview show. And I think that's the biggest thing I've seen in the people that were like, oh no, I only do in-person interviews. Well, that's a little struggle right now.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's again, it's opened up so many different avenues for a lot of these different podcasters. I was always against, no, we're not going to ever do anything virtual. It goes against everything we believe, right? We want we want in-person intimacy type of stuff. And we had to, and it turned out great. And so I think it's the same way with a lot of these other podcasters. No, only in-person interviews, only in-person, whatever. It doesn't always happen that way. And I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised that this virtually still works, and it's working great in a lot of instances.
Yeah, it's as good as it can be. You've got to embrace what you can do these days versus what you can't. Thinking back to when you started Outlier and your podcast out there, what was some of the inspiration for it when you're getting started and getting things off the ground?
My background's in logistics and sales. And so I was running a logistics company out of Utah for many years, decided to sell it in 2013 or so. So I had a little bit of time on my hand after I got rid of it. And so I'm sitting there thinking, shoot, I'm still kind of young. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And so I was listening to a few podcasts back then, right? And this is late 2012, early 2013. So not a lot of options then, not that I could find anyway. But there were a few that I enjoyed. I enjoyed Mixergy with Andrew Warner, Jason with This Week in Startups, those kind of shows. And I was like, I like people. I like business. Why don't I just start a podcast where I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners? And that was the inspiration. So we started that way, and then it morphed into much, much more. But early on, it was just about me, first of all, trying to stay a little bit busy, and then meeting a lot of cool people now that I was at that point out of the game for a little bit. And again, episode 1, we had Chris Brogan on, if you guys know him, an online entrepreneur. And then it just kind of went from there, and it's been growing ever since. So yeah, in the beginning, it was just trying to stay busy. And then I was like, there's something special here. And so we kind of took advantage of it.
Now, let's talk about that, staying busy. I always like to ask the podcasters, obviously their favorite thing, but then also, what's the thing that frustrates you the most when it comes to your podcast? Is it the editing? Is it like, what's the thing that just kind of, we all can talk, don't get me wrong, we all love talking.
That's right.
What would be the opposite side of that spectrum, the things that you really don't like about podcasting?
It's not, for me anyway, for my show, the editing would have been one. If there was more editing for me, I push play. I do the interview for an hour or so, so the editing is just the beginning and the end, nothing in between. We don't usually cut stuff out. So that's not that bad. For me, it's the social media stuff. I enjoy it. I don't do it well because I'm not like 100% invested in it, sharing and doing clips. And, some people go all out and are doing amazing things. I just wish I had that in me. I don't have it in me. We've hired a couple of agencies to do it for us. It's not, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that, but I think that's the worst part of it. Finding little clips or promoting myself and the podcast and the guest on a regular basis has been, it's not hard, but it's just consistency wise, it's not always on the top of my list.
It's I get it, man. We love, and that's the big thing. Like our previous guest, Jesse T, was talking about staying in your lane. Your lane is, I love the talking, I love the interviewing. I don't want to have to cut it up and throw it on Instagram. Right. I don't want to cut it up and throw it on social. I get that, man. If that's not what it's not what your bag is, baby. And
people still find us, right? I mean, which is great. And I sit here and I think, how much more exposure would we get if I was consistent and if I treated it like a real marketing piece of everything that we do? I'm sure it would help, but again, I'm just not that interested. And luckily, I'm in a position where I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, right? I mean, if this was something that I needed to do to feed my kids, then obviously I would be all in. But with what we're doing now, it's more than enough. And so, there's no fire under my butt to kind of get up there and do the social media thing as well as I need to do it. I mean, it's still up there. We share it, we do all that stuff, but I mean, people like you, I mean, there are people that are doing a great job with their shows, and my hat's off to them because it's not always easy.
I'm very lucky that I have a team that does all the production and creates most of the stuff for me. And then I have
I mean, even your graphics, your consistency, all that stuff, it's pretty good. It's really good, actually.
I have a very good vendor that does that for me for the most part. Because I'm the same way, man. Yeah. I got stuff I got to do. Podcasting, while I love it, it is not it's not the thing that pays the bills. Don't get me wrong, we've monetized well with what we've done, but still, for the most part, we use it as the biggest lead gen for our educational and class stuff like that. It kind of takes me to the next question I was going to ask you. With Outlier and your podcast, or anything specifically you're doing to monetize that or help with paying the bills and taking that monetary level? Because that's always the biggest thing. You and I both know this. We hear this all the time. How do I monetize? I'm on episode 1. Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah, we're doing it. Nice. We're doing it a couple of different ways. Obviously, the exposure that our show gets brings in guests and speakers to our festivals. So obviously, ticket sales to our festival, sponsorships for our events is huge. And then because of the exposure that I have and the circles that I run in, and because I've kind of built this little bit of a brand as well, not just with Outlier, but with my own personal name, I get called to consult with not just podcasters, but entrepreneurs. And so that's been a lot of the lot of the revenue. We don't have sponsors on our show, right? We don't do any of that stuff. I don't know. We tried it. The demand is there, but again, it's the consistency on my end. I just don't want to I want to be able to put out my stuff raw, and it's great and it's worked for us. And, if you've ever been to one of our events, not a lot of bells and whistles, right? We just want great content from the stage and from everything that we're doing. The same thing with our podcast. But one of the things that we started doing recently is we have a newsletter that we have started to monetize. So we turned on a kind of like a Patreon. We use Substack, $15 a month. If you subscribe, not only do you get a good information from us weekly, but $15 a month, which is $180 a year, gets you access to all of our festivals, which is 3 a year, which is I think a good deal, plus a monthly masterclass in podcasting, and then a Q&A once a month with industry leaders as well. And for $15 a month, I think that's a great deal. And so we've been starting to do that, and we've seen some success. I mean, we literally just started this month, and it's been fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, then it gives you an opportunity to monetize it. And I think it's sometimes going back to that newsletter aspect of things. Like, a lot of people forget about that because they can listen to the show notes or they can do other things. Well, that extra little bit of touch base allows you to feature some other things and really connect and grow people. And you've used, your Facebook community as well, Outlier, to kind of grow and really connect with your audience and connect with the Outlier tribe.
Yeah, a lot of people say email is dead, and I get that, right? But not for me, not for what we're doing. I think, and I control it, right? I mean, people have opted in to receive information from us, and so I own it. I don't have a social media company that's going to change the algorithm or change the way they do things, right? I'm building it kind of on my platform, as opposed to, as much as I like our Facebook groups and different groups that we have. And that can go away tomorrow if Mark Zuckerberg thinks, hey, no more groups or whatever. It's gone like this. And so email for us has been still huge, right? I mean, it sounds like we're, 2000 here talking about email, but it still works. And so those that opt in, get information, that's the way we interact. And that's the way that we're going to continue to move forward. And, we'll use some of these other social media platforms. We have a little bit of Slack stuff as well, but I think email is huge for us. I'm never going to be on TikTok, right? I'm never going to do some of these other trends that are out there.
You're not going to do the flossy?
Come on now. I'm 44 years old. I'm going to throw off a hip or something. But no, it works for some, right? I've seen Pat Flynn starting to use it, and he's funny. Whatever. If it works for his audience, more power to you. But not for me.
Well, Pat's got to do something since they're not coming out with a Back to the Future 4. You know what I mean?
That's a big deal for him, for sure.
Kudos to Pat out there. What's been the with you having a pivot going from in-person events to virtual events? We talked a little about that. What kind of advice or counsel would you give to those out there that are struggling that because we know all come from the event space. We all love getting together. I mean, it's same thing. We were in Orlando at PodFest before all this, and thank God we were all there because that was kind of the last bastion of an in-person event. But what advice would you give to those people that are like, oh, I can't do an online event because, around my podcast because we got to be together. Yeah. And I've seen that out there. What would you say?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I'd back up a little bit. And for those that are like, well, I don't know if I can do this, put an event together. I don't know if I can do a live episode of my show, whatever. Do it, right? Even if 5 people show up, it's the right 5 people that are showing up. Those that are kind of hesitant about doing virtual events or these type of things, I think you try it. I think you would be pleasantly surprised at people that if they're following you already, they want more from you. And so make it easier for them to kind of access your episode or you specifically. More power to them and more power to you for putting that on. So yeah, I don't think it has to be like, again, overly produced virtual event, right? Again, PodFest and Podcast Movement, right? Man, they're huge and they're awesome, and I'm good friends with them, and we've both been there. They put on a great event, right? We do something different. We're kind of staying in our lane. Again, 200 attendees, no bells and whistles. We just have a microphone and a stage and our Outlier flag behind it, and that's it, right? I mean, we focus on the content. We focus on the people. We don't worry about the loud rock and roll music, the dance music. We don't worry about flashing lights and disco balls and stuff like that. We worry about people, and it's worked well for us. And a lot of times I feel like the Grateful Dead when we were doing these events 3 times a year, because people would fly to different cities to come to us. And I mean, that's a huge testament to some of the things that we're doing. And it's not because of me. It's not because of Ariel. It's not, for the most part, because of the content that's coming out from our stage, although all those things are important, I think. It's the people being able to interact. And so those hallway conversations, we've talked about this many times, the podcaster that's talking to another podcaster that they just met in the hallway at one of my events, and that's good things happen from there, right? They find partners, sponsors, a new friend, whatever. More power to us for being able to kind of put that together. And then now they take that relationship and build it themselves, but then we get the credit for being able to put them together. And so next time we have an event, right now we have 2 more ambassadors that are kind of sharing our information. And so you could do the same thing virtually, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of happy hours. I've seen a lot of these cocktail hours. Do it, whatever it takes. And again, even if you get 5 people, that's a good start. Keep going. You don't have to have 10,000 fans, 10,000 followers, right? If you have 1,000, if you have 500, but they're all in with your stuff, that's even better.
That's the biggest thing. I think that's the one takeaway from Gary Vaynerchuk. I have probably applied more to podcasting and marketing than anything else. Is we all get a lot of people early on want to send something out, whether it's an email, a video, a podcast episode, and they expect it to suddenly have thousands of downloads and go viral. And early on, when I got started, I went with a mentality: if one person listens to it, that's one more than I had beforehand. And if that next day is one more person, so really the power in adding one person a day, as long as you show up. And consistency, 400, how many episodes have you done now, Ever?
I think we've released 435. 435.
That's consistency. You know what I mean? And showing up to that builds a lot of trust with your audience when you know when they know you're going to be there, right?
Yeah. And we're hoping the quality stays the same right across and even gets better as we do this. Obviously, listening back to my very first episode, and it's cringeworthy. It has to be cringeworthy, right? If you're not embarrassed about the first email you send out, the first episode you put out there, whatever you're doing, if you're not embarrassed about it a year from now, then you're not doing it right. You've waited too long, and it's overly produced, whatever, right? I mean, you have to be professional and all that stuff, but you, for the most part, are going to be embarrassed about the first things that you put out there. And I definitely am, but it got me to 435 plus. And our first events, we had it in St. George, Utah, Southern Utah, where I was living for quite a while. we had 100 people show up maybe, right? Again, it was a small town. We did have people fly in, but I'm looking around thinking, is this worth the effort? But those 100 people and the speakers, we all went for pizza that evening, right? It was a one-day event, and it was one of the best outings that we've had. Sean Douglas, some of the people that you know were there for the very first one, and obviously it's grown since then. But man, that tight-knit family feel was there from the very beginning. And again, I was sitting there thinking in the middle of the conference thinking, man, I don't know if this is going to be worth it. I don't know if this is going to be something that we're doing again. We just kind of threw it together. But after, the second half, you could start having, we started having this feeling of, man, there's something cool going on here. And again, from stage saying, hey, we're going to go hang out, and there's a new pizza shop that's down the street. It's my buddies. We're going to go celebrate there. Everybody came. They closed it down, and it was just for our party. And it was amazing. And we made some lifelong friends there.
Big things have small beginnings always.
That's right. That's right.
It always starts small. And it's just a lot of times I think people are sitting there watching us all out there. Okay, are they continue? And is it going to grow? Are they going to stick with it? Are they going to stick with it? And before too long, if you give something enough water, enough sun, enough soil, things sprout and do really good things out there. And you've been a testament to that.
So Scott, you obviously command a large audience, right? You're consistent with your stuff, and you've been doing this for quite a while, right? What has been the hardest part about your journey in all of this?
The hardest part, I would say this is because I've been teaching my niche of real estate investing for over a decade. And as the market changes, keeping up and not being a habit of looking and stopping what I'm doing and not making sure I'm looking forward, because I always have to try to keep ahead of the schedule, trying to keep what's going on. What do I think the market's going to do? What's planning 3 months to 6 months out? That's always the hardest thing, I would say. Some people are like, well, I just got to plan the day. I'm like, no, my day, pretty much the same thing. It's that if I want to achieve something, we have to start planning ahead of time. Like I'm already planning for next year compared to waiting until January 1st to start there. I'm always big. I think it goes into the football player in me with the coaches. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. You know what I mean? So that would be the big thing. I go through peaks and valleys like anybody else does. I have good days, bad days. Consistency, I know that I'm in the thing. I'm not in the real estate business. I'm not in the note business. I'm in the media business these days. And as a podcaster or content provider, I think you've got to have that mentality. If you want to get the word out to today's audience, you have to stand out from the crowd. Most people are doing the bare minimum to market. And it's that doing that little bit extra goes such a long way. And if you do 1% extra each day, at the end of 30 days, you're 30% ahead of your competition. If you think about that. One of my favorite quotes is Elon Musk. He says, I didn't work 40 hours a day. I worked 40 hours a week. I worked 80 hours a week. So I got twice as much done compared to my competition, Agreed.
And it's funny that you mentioned how, with everything that you're doing, you're definitely a media company that happens to be working in real estate and notes and those type of things, right? And I think if we kind of all approach that nowadays, those that are listening, right, those that are podcasters, we truly are a media company in what niche, right? I happen to be with entrepreneurs and podcasters, but whatever you're doing, I see Liz talking about doing a virtual event here, a publishing boot camp, right? If she kind of focuses on that being all of it, a media company for the most part, I think it's going to go a long way. And she's talking about here in the notes, talking about how she had to cancel it. But, if your biggest worry is the tech, awesome, right? If you already have an audience, if you already have the idea and you only need help with the tech, that could be learned in 20 minutes, right? 25 minutes. A big kudos to you, Scott. You helped me in May when we were trying to figure this out and turn our podcast festival into a virtual festival. We've done virtual stuff in the past, but this was going to be a full-on festival, 3 days, over 40 speakers. And I texted you saying, hey, dude, I don't know what I'm doing here. And you called me on a Saturday and you spent an hour with me. And that was huge. And so I really appreciate that. And so Liz, whether it's Scott or me or anybody else or YouTube, you're going to be able to figure out the tech part. And so I think having that, publishing boot camp scheduled and done, I think you can definitely do it.
Yeah, I would agree to that. It's gotten so much easier than it used to be. We've been doing virtual events for 5 years, anywhere from 30 people to 1,500 people via Zoom, sometimes 2 Zoom rooms, and it's pretty relatively easy these days. It may seem difficult and can seem overwhelming if you've never been down that pace. I'm not trying to minimize anybody's fear, but it really is a lot easier than most people make it out to. I mean,
Dude, I was able to figure it out.
I create a Zoom link and send out invites to the 20 some odd people here and create a couple infographics and okay, let's schedule the time and pick out a URL here too, and then we're off and rock and rolling.
And there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some things that go wrong, right? Our very first one, and it kind of turned into a funny thing. But for us, I sent out the wrong link when it came for people registering, and so everybody that registered, usually, like Liz, I can see your name, Scott, I can see people's names as they register, but I sent out the wrong link where everybody was Joe Test because I was testing out the link. And so everybody that registered and was asking questions, all of our speakers are like, who's this Joe Test that keeps asking the same, keep asking questions, but obviously it was different people. And so that was turned into a funny experience, but it was something that we screwed up. And again, you might screw it up a little bit, but overall, if you have a positive experience, learn from that and take it to the next level.
Well, that's the biggest thing. You see the biggest amount of growth between the first episode and the second episode. The first attempt at something versus the second attempt at something. There's that big learning curve in there. And that's what you said, start small, 5, 6 people. I've got a friend, Cassandra McClure out of San Francisco who does the Clean and Beauty Summit. And she started off with 4 or 5 people doing it via Instagram. 4 people on an Instagram live TV for an hour, 15 minute, boom, done. And that has grown now to bigger events, national recognition because she started off small and did it once a month. Every Sunday she would do a Clean and Beauty con and just got better at it. And, it's just awesome stuff out there. And she's doing great things as a podcaster out there. What's next? What's 2021 holds for you in the future, Ever?
Yeah, great question. I think we'll continue to do our events. I think the first 2, again, we do January, May, and September. I think January and May of 2021, I think we're going to have to do virtual summits again. We're hoping that all this pandemic stuff is taken care of and goes away, hopefully. But as of right now, September 2021 is when we're planning on having our first in-person event. Again, if things change and we can do it in May, we'll do something in person in May. But we'll do these virtual summits again and focus on a specific community, have speakers from that community speak. And obviously we kind of sprinkled them on with other speakers that we fly in or that we kind of invite. Scott, you've done this for us a couple of times now. We'll have those type of experiences again. And we're always thinking of new different ways to kind of have that hallway conversation that we have in person virtually. And so we're going to try to come up with different ways to be able to do so that people can kind of still connect at our events, because that's been our biggest, something that I think we do well, that we've done well in the past.
Yeah, I think you've got to expect that at least through the first 6 months, there's not going to be a lot of travel for events. People are still going to be doing stuff primarily remote via Zoom or other things out there. And that's okay. I mean, and then as we transfer into something, I think the virtual aspect of any type of event is going to be much more important these days than what it used to be,
and one of the things that has kind of helped and has been pretty good, right? We moved here to Austin a couple months ago, and obviously a big move like that is always takes up a little bit of time, a little bit of effort and resources, and being able to kind of do these events virtually helped, right? I didn't have to fly my entire team somewhere. I didn't have to worry about a venue. I didn't have to worry about food. It was just hey, $40, I think, for Zoom that we do for the webinar service. And then we had these amazing speakers, and we had cool sponsors and cool attendees. And so now just trying to figure out what 2021 is going to look like is on my mind. And so we have a few months to do it. Being a media and events company that we are, we're bringing back a podcast or a conference that we've done in the past that we haven't done in a couple of years, Founders Weekend.
I was going to ask you about that. Talk more about this. I'm excited to hear more about this.
Yeah, this one's going to be what we've done in the past and focused on entrepreneurs and startups. Again, we were in St. George, Utah, Southern Utah for a long time. And so a lot of our events were there, and we would fly in speakers, and we were trying to help the Southern Utah entrepreneurial community. And it was great and it was fun, but it was still a small town. And now that I'm in Austin, we're bringing it out here, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to try to partner with South by Southwest and a few of these other media companies that are down here. And we're going to have a good event. And we're thinking December 3rd and 4th is when we're going to do this. And again, it's going to be virtual because of what's going on. But we hope to kind of make Austin our true headquarters once all this is done. And right, it's in the middle of the country, easy access, great airport, all that stuff. And so with our podcast festivals moving forward, with our Founders Weekend conference moving forward, I think it's going to be Austin. Good
stuff, man. Well, we look forward to big growth in the new year and hanging out and getting a chance to have a pint or a pizza with you sometime soon, man.
Absolutely. It's always fun to hop on. So thanks, Scott, for everything you do.
Anytime. But what's the best way for people to reach out to you, connect with you, Ever?
Yeah, outlierhq.com, our website, outlierhq.com, Outlier HQ for all of our social media channels as well. So connect, say hi, join our Facebook group at Outlier Podcast Festival. Just look it up and join us.
Good stuff. Thanks for being a part of International Podcast 2020, man.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you soon.
See you later.